What's up, y'all? Hope y'all doing well. We are on Need for Speed Unbound. And I gotta say, man, 2025, Need for Speed Unbound came out in 2022. And it's pretty awesome to see the game being supported. And I think this has been the longest since like a Need for Speed game has been like the latest Need for Speed. I'm pretty sure before at max it was like 2 years, but the fact that the next game is only going to come out into 2025, I think that's great because one, I think the idea, wow, that's a close call. I think the idea of having yearly release cycles is pretty pointless, and it just makes me wonder, like, during the golden age of Need for Speed, the mid 2000s, that probably could have lasted a lot longer if they just gave the devs more time. Like EA Black Box, they were not only doing Need for Speed, but they're doing other games as well. And man, what am I doing? I'm at a critical health, and yeah, now I need a wreck because who knows if we finish this round and I have like low repair, low repairability, and I just lose all the money I get. But going back to what I was saying, it kind of makes me think, like, let's say if Most Wanted got another year development, and if any of y'all never watch the developer interview, they've said things like they had like a snow area, for example, in development that was like, not in development, but was planned, but it was scrapped due to time. And think about Carbon. Carbon seems pretty short. I feel like there was definitely a lot more they could do with Carbon. Imagine if Pro Street wasn't like a side project. Like, it kind of goes to show, like, and even if they stuck to their original plan of having a underground game type of game and a hot pursuit type of game, essentially having two dev teams working on either one, giving each dev team like 2 years to work on it. Man, like, just think of the possibilities. Think of, like, it kind of makes you wonder, like, man, like, even some of the great games we did have, like, if they just had a little more time, they could have been way more great. And we wouldn't be in this issue where when the 2010s hit, Need for Speed kind of fell flat, and they just couldn't do much, I mean, obviously there were some good games. Like Hot Pursuit 2010 is a good game. If this game if Most Wanted 2012 had a different title, or honestly was just a non-Need for Speed game, that game is fine. Or if they let Criterion like actually make, the proper Most Wanted 2 they originally wanted to make. Rivals wasn't bad, but it's like everything wasn't bad, but it wasn't captivating. Even a game like Hot Pursuit 2010, like, that game, even the remaster too, it's a fun game. However, it doesn't have much shelf life. It's one of those games, at least for me, where it's like I'll play maybe once in a while, be like I have an itch to play it. However, I can't play it like, fully through, and it shows, especially in games like those where, online mode is pretty great and no one's really playing it, and it doesn't have the single player strength as it does as those 2000s Need for Speed games. Although, those 2000 Need for Speed games, when you play them again, at least for me, I kind of realized like how limited the game design is. And one thing I like about Unbound is that, they really made a big effort in the online aspect. That being said, I think single player is not that good. It falls into the same thing of like, just a rinse and repeat, and then the story is like pretty lackluster. The characters are just, there's one thing, like, it's kind of ironic because if you look at the formula, like, the characters are over the top, pretty cringe, which Most Wanted 05 was also the same thing. However, it just doesn't work, and I do love the game's art style, and that's one thing that I feel like they should have built more on. In fact, they should look at Need for Speed Nitro of how they, really embraced their like cartoon-ish aspects of it and just went with the whole thing. And I think Unbound has this kind of weird in between where they do have like these little, for example, some smoke effects, the flying effects. However, it's not fully integrated into the world. And on top of that, because a lot of people, they complained about it. However, the thing is that if you want to go with an art direction, I think that you should really fully commit to it. Like, for example, adding like a tag system where it's like, the world gets like, colored with your tag, or just, I guess, making the graphics a little more cartoonish than just the characters, for example. It definitely, there definitely is some things that could be done. However, I do think that Unbound is a good game, but like I was saying before, it never really got moved over to single player. So as a multiplayer game, this is probably, this is pretty good, I'd say, like, for what it is. Now, to be fair, it is limiting because it's not like an MMO. It's a lobby type of system. And the fact that there's only 16 max players in a lobby in a world like this is so limiting. It really is, especially when, for a person who like me who plays Need for Speed World, well, Soapbox Race World, and everyone is, I think the Soapbox only showcases, I think, 20 players max. Yeah, even then, Soapbox shows 20 players max, like, in the area, or I think on your game. This only has 16 max in general. So because of that, the world kind of feels empty because the fact that everyone is kind of spread apart doing their own thing. And it was like I was saying in one of my Unbound videos, like, they really should have just made this multiplayer mode something separate. It should have been, this is when I'm playing multiplayer, because I can't bother playing single player in this game. It's not really it for me. But when I'm playing multiplayer, and not even PvP, I'm playing free roam, it really does remind me of a modern interpretation of Need for Speed World. Now, that being said, making another Need for Speed World would probably be terrible because of the fact that already, being a free-to-play player for Need for Speed World back then was not really great. It was because of the fact that I was a kid and I had so much time to play that didn't seem that bad. But now, I definitely would not be able to, really do much. And that's the thing, with how EA is now. Back then they were pretty bad with, the free-to-play models. Like, it was so pay to win. And I can't even imagine now. Already, even for, these speed, what do they call it, speed list? The fact that you gotta pay a tier to get, some of the nicer rewards it's just ridiculous to me. Like, I actually wouldn't mind spending extra upfront for a game rather than, getting a game and then all of a sudden, oh, I don't have access. Like, for example, like I think the M3 GTR in this volume for one of them is only available if you pay for the, what was it, the Unbound pass? I don't know what the speed pass, I don't know what it is, but I think that's pretty ridiculous. This is obviously, gaming industry is way different. I'm also not really a person who plays modern games, so I don't really know what it's like. But I think it's also pretty ridiculous. Like, I get, things are just more expensive now. However, it's definitely not to the point where it's like, man, just imagine if you spent like $70 on this game and you don't even have access to all the content. Like, you gotta pay extra. That's just ridiculous. That is so ridiculous. Just how my driving is so ridiculous that I just missed that checkpoint. And yeah, there's just, this game could have been a lot more, but at the same time, I'm actually very happy with, how this game came out compared to previous games, because And it kind of makes me wonder if Heat was supported properly, how good that game would be. Because for the longest time, it was only until recently, if you check on the Steam charts, that Unbound actually surpassed Heat for the most amount of players, which is kind of nuts if you ask me, you know. But finally, but even then, now there are still a good amount of people playing on Heat, and that's just on Steam, on PC, and so that's not even accounting for, you know, just people who have the EA app, or people who are playing on PSN or Xbox. That game, like, man, it kind of makes you wonder how much more improved that game could be. Because I think when I played the game, I only played the single player portion. I never played the multiplayer because I kind of was, I'm just a single player first guy. That story was intriguing enough for me to actually play through the story. Whereas for Unbound, I'm not gonna lie, like Unbound, like I cannot. I just can't, because it's so one thing, it's so annoying. It's so annoying for the fact that there's too many cops. Like, you know, when you rack up your heat level, and obviously, yeah, it's gonna be skill show, yada yada yada. But for me, there's only so much time. Now, obviously, everything I'm talking about is pertaining to me, so you know, everyone's opinion is different. However, for someone who doesn't have that much time to play games, and my playtime sessions are pretty limited, I don't really want to spend most of the time just, you know, worrying about running into a cop, you know, after all your heat, you know, it constantly gains. It's just ridiculous, and it gets to a point where it's like I constantly, like, you know, I'm just better off leaving the game, trying again to make sure I don't get caught. But then guess what? I win a big bet race, and then, you know, now I gotta evade the cops, or, you know, the police chase takes way too long and I can't, like, get out of it. Or the fact that, you know, sometimes the AI is, like, for some reason, like, really OP, even though in the previous race the same cars were just not that fast. So yeah, the thing is, Unbound, like, you definitely need a lot of time to you know, progress through single player, which is something that I just can't do. And that's exactly why I think the multiplayer is great, because it is way easier to gain money. But that being said, I don't even buy cars or anything. I basically just have the GTR, and I kind of just drive that thing around. And I love the link ups. The link ups are pretty fire. And man, rest in peace to Izzy over there. The link ups are pretty nice. I do gotta say, like, something about it. I think it kind of reminisces a little bit Most Wanted 2012, because that game had a good multiplayer system, and it kind of does those, like, objectives, task thing. And I think they do a good balance with, as well as including the police, which is pretty dope. And I think the police are very balanced, like, you know, in link ups. And I do like the fact that they are easy to evade, like, pretty much. Like, even if you're a Heat 5, you never have to worry about keeping the money. And, you know, for someone who, pretty much my gameplay sessions of Unbound is just doing a link up, driving around, and leaving. And at the end of the day, I get some rewards out of it, so I'm progressing in some fashion. That's honestly, that really suits me. And I really was thinking about, I was just going to talk about the gameplay. However, I was just talking about how I felt about this game, and I think the series is going in a good direction with how well they did with support and everything. And I'm looking forward to the next game. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you have a good one. Peace.